Article 5 of NATO is often summed up in a single sentence. An attack on one is an attack on all. It sounds simple, almost slogan-like, but it is one of the most carefully designed security commitments in modern history. Written in 1949, it was meant to bind countries together so tightly that attacking one of them would immediately mean facing a united alliance. Its power lies in the political and military consequences it implies for anyone bold or reckless enough to test it. What many people misunderstand is that Article 5 does not mean automatic war. There is no big red button that launches troops the moment a border is crossed. Instead, each NATO member agrees to take such action as it deems necessary. That phrasing gives room for diplomacy, military support, intelligence sharing, or direct force. This flexibility is intentional. It allows NATO to respond proportionally and strategically, rather than emotionally, even in moments of extreme pressure. For decades, Article 5 was never used, yet it shaped the entire Cold War. The Soviet Union and NATO stared at each other across Europe, but direct attacks never happened. Why? Because Article 5 made the price of aggression too high. Even without being activated, it worked as a deterrent. It quietly influenced military planning, political decisions, and global stability, proving that sometimes the strongest weapon is the one that never has to be fired. That long silence ended after the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. For the first and so far only time, NATO invoked Article 5. This moment was historically significant because the attack did not come from a state, but from a terrorist organization. NATO had to interpret whether such an event qualified as an armed attack. The decision to say yes showed that the alliance was willing to adapt its principles to new forms of warfare. The response after Article 5 was invoked in 2000. One was deliberate and controlled. Allies did not rush blindly into battle. Instead, they shared intelligence, coordinated air patrols, secured critical infrastructure, and supported operations targeting al-Qaeda. European NATO aircraft even patrolled U.S. airspace, an unprecedented reversal of traditional roles. It was collective defense in practice, showing that Article 5 could function without chaos or escalation. Since then, Article 5 has become a constant reference point in global crises. Whenever tensions rise near NATO borders, analysts and politicians ask the same question: does this trigger Article 5? Most of the time, the answer is no, and that restraint is crucial. Invoking it too easily would weaken its credibility. Its strength depends on clarity, seriousness, and the shared understanding that it is reserved for truly fundamental threats. The war in Ukraine has brought Article 5 back into the center of public debate. Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022 was a shock to European security and a reminder that large-scale war is not a thing of the past. However, Ukraine is not a NATO member. That single fact explains why Article 5 has not been invoked, despite massive destruction, civilian casualties, and regional instability. NATO had no formal obligations in that matter, and Ukraine had and has no right to demand that. This does not mean NATO is absent from the Ukraine conflict. On the contrary, support has been extensive. Military aid, intelligence sharing, training, sanctions coordination, and diplomatic pressure. But NATO has drawn a clear line between support and direct involvement. Article 5 defines that boundary. It protects NATO territory while preventing an automatic escalation into a direct NATO-Russia war, which could have catastrophic global consequences. Ironically, Article 5 plays a major role in the Ukraine war precisely because it has not been triggered. NATO's eastern members, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Romania, are protected under its umbrella. This protection sends a clear message. Any attack on their territory would fundamentally change the conflict. That certainty is one of the main reasons the war has remained geographically contained, despite its intensity. Critics sometimes argue that Article 5 is too cautious or too slow. But its purpose is not speed, it is stability. It forces consultation, coordination, and unity before action. In a world of impulsive decisions and rapid escalation, that restraint matters. Article 5 is designed to prevent miscalculations, not encourage them, and to ensure that when action is taken, it is collective and deliberate. Article 5 has been formally invoked only once, yet it influences international politics every day. Military deployments, air policing missions, strategic exercises, and diplomatic signaling all revolve around it. It reassures member states and warns adversaries without a single shot being fired. Its quiet presence shapes decisions long before crises turn into conflicts. The mark of success may be the fact that a member state has not been attacked by another state yet. Article 5 is not about rushing into war. It is about making war less likely. In the shadow of the war in Ukraine, its importance is clearer than ever. By drawing firm boundaries and reinforcing unity, this single paragraph of a treaty continues to hold the fragile balance between deterrence and disaster. What do you think about NATO and Article 5? Write in the comments. Like and subscribe if you want more videos like this. Thank you for watching.